They told us it was impossible, that the humans were gone, wiped from existence, a relic of the past, nothing more than a whispered myth among Dominion fleets. But then, we saw it, a warship that should not exist, but does. A warship that changed everything. It began with a routine patrol. The Xylar Dominion, the most powerful empire in the galaxy, had ruled uncontested for over 1,000 cycles. We had crushed every species that resisted, subjugated every world we desired. The Dominion was absolute, its fleets unmatched. And yet, on the fringes of known space, an anomaly appeared. A vessel, no known signatures, no identifying marks, a ghost ship, seemingly abandoned in the dark void. The admiral on duty, Velrax of the 3rd Imperial Fleet, ordered an immediate scan. Our sensors reached out, and the results were impossible. This ship, this relic, was human. The crew of the Dominion flagship stood in stunned silence. Humanity had been eradicated centuries ago, their planets reduced to ash, their fleets annihilated. It was a fact, written in the very fabric of our history. And yet, there it was. A warship that should not exist. Velrax ordered his fleet to approach cautiously. The ship was ancient, its hull scarred by battles long forgotten. It had no power signatures, no visible crew, and yet, it was intact. As the Dominion fleet drew closer, our sensors picked up something chilling. The warship was not abandoned. It was waking up. Faint power readings pulsed beneath the armored surface. The ship's weapons systems were still online, its targeting arrays functional. But that was impossible. The Dominion's greatest scientists had studied human technology centuries ago. It was primitive, inferior, obsolete. And yet, somehow, this vessel was operational. Aboard the Dominion flagship, panic spread. Officers whispered among themselves, eyes darting to their commanding admiral. The myth of humanity had always carried a warning, a lesson passed down through generations. Never underestimate them. Velrax scoffed. Myths were for the weak. Humans were extinct, weren't they? Velrax ordered a hail transmission, a standard protocol when encountering derelict ships. There was no response. He ordered another transmission, this time, a demand. Unknown vessel, identify yourself. This is Imperial Fleet Command. Silence. Then, the warship's lights flickered on. The entire crew of the Dominion fleet froze as the ancient warship came to life. And then, a voice. You should have left us alone. A single, chilling sentence. Spoken in a language that had not been heard in the galaxy for centuries. The humans had returned. Before Velrax could react, the human warship moved. Not sluggishly, like an ancient relic barely holding itself together, but fast. Too fast. The Dominion's computers couldn't even track it. How? This ship was over 500 years old. It should have been a rusted corpse drifting in space. Yet it outmaneuvered the finest warships in the Dominion fleet with terrifying ease. And then, it fired. A single shot, not an energy weapon like the Dominion's advanced plasma cannons, but something far worse, a kinetic round. A simple, solid projectile moving at a fraction of the speed of light. The impact was instantaneous. One of the Dominion's cruisers split apart, torn in half as if struck by the wrath of a dying god. No shields could block it, no countermeasures could stop it. The crew barely had time to scream before they were silenced by the vacuum of space. Velrax watched in horror as a single human warship, an artifact of a dead race, ripped through his fleet like they were nothing. The Dominion's most powerful battleships, reduced to scrap within minutes. Velrax had one final order to give. Retreat. He had never spoken the word before. No Xylar commander had. The Dominion did not retreat, but today, they did. As the surviving ships fled into hyperspace, Velrax stared at his screens in mute horror. The warship did not pursue. It simply remained, floating like a ghost, watching them flee. Then, as if to send a final message, the human vessel transmitted one last communication. It was an ancient recording. A message from one of humanity's lost leaders, long before their supposed extinction. We were never gone. And with that, the warship disappeared into the void. The Dominion fleet had survived the encounter. But the galaxy would never be the same again. News of the battle spread like wildfire. The Dominion High Command was in shock. They had believed themselves untouchable, unstoppable, and yet, an ancient human warship, one single vessel, had proven them wrong. The Xylar Dominion had spent centuries building its empire on fear and conquest. Now, for the first time in its history, it was afraid. Because if one ship could do this, how many more were waiting? How many more forgotten human warships lay hidden in the void, ready to awaken? The warship that shouldn't exist did exist. And somewhere, in the darkest corners of the galaxy, humanity was watching, waiting, and soon, they would return. End of story.